And we're so glad you're with us. It's Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. I'm Jerry Usher along with Debbie Georgiani. Every day on this program, we try to pick a topic that would resonate with you and that you would have a take to call in and share about. And Debbie, today, boy, I'll tell you, double standards in life. That is what we're talking about. And if there's anyone listening to the show right now who's never witnessed or been involved, in some way a part of, a double standard being measured out, I don't know where they've been because, geez, it just seems like it happens so much all the time in daily life.
It sure does. I mean, even if you just tune into the nightly news, you'll see a version of a double standard being played out, and it can be quite infuriating. In fact, Jerry, when we were doing the research for this topic, it actually talks about how people will yell out to the TV set because they're so frustrated how a certain set of principles works for one group but not for another. It's the exact opposite, and I found that so interesting. And so, double standards does affect us, and so we want to hear from you. We gave the number out yesterday. You know why we did that? Because phones fill up very quickly. So we wanted you to write it down. As a matter of fact, why don't you put it down in a safe place so you can have it readily available so you can call in and be one of the first ones in to weigh in and drive the show. Remember, you steer the conversation. So here's the number. We're talking about double standards. You can weigh in on it, any version of it. We'll address it. 1-800-585-9396.
Yeah, and as I don't know what would have it, fate, providence, just eerie timing. I don't know. Double standard is in the news right now. That is absolutely and by the way, Debbie, I talk to my TV all the time. I'm sitting there going, no, wait a minute, no, didn't you? Come on.
It would be scary if it talked back, though, Jerry.
Well, it would be. That day is probably coming.
Yes, true.
But yeah, we could. We talk about, like, for example, you see a major pro athletic star will commit some really serious. We had these guys, punch their girlfriends, strangle people, threaten to murder, whatever. And, it's like, oh, I'm sorry, you have to sit out a couple games and then you're back. Or they get cut by one team. They do steroids. They get cut by one team and other teams look and go, well, gosh, he can still hit a ball pretty far and can still run pretty fast. So, well, I think we could find a place for him. Whereas, if the average person working in a bank or a post office or a school teacher did some of these things, they'd probably never work again. So that's one example. But Debbie, the glaring one that really just came out yesterday, I can't say that I'm surprised, but this whole twist of fate, if you will, for the organizers of those videos that exposed Planned Parenthood for selling fetal body parts.
I know, and you were talking about how it's, maybe providential or coincidental or even ironic in some sense. But, it's so disturbing, Jerry, because I've actually received a few different emails and inquiries, asking me what my thoughts were on the subject. And, it's so bothersome because you can't negate what Planned Parenthood what was exposed in Planned Parenthood. You can't negate that. So regardless of what happened, of how the journalism was brought forth or what tactics were used, that's beside the point. The fact still remains that something really, evil, it was taking place behind the walls of Planned Parenthood. And so I that's where I think gets me so, I was yelling at the TV set, Jerry, because I was thinking to myself, my goodness, are we just going to just gloss over the sin because somebody may have chosen to use tactics that weren't, the right way? We're losing our compass. We're losing our sense of what is right and wrong sometimes. And it really bothers me that we will excuse certain behavior just because it fits the circumstances or it fits the PC culture. And this is really, I think this was appropriate timing for this topic. We didn't plan it this way, but look how, life is just swirling around us and it's happening right in front of us. So we want to talk about these double standards. Let's talk about it. 1-800-585-9396.
Yeah, have you seen it? Have you experienced, maybe in the workplace? We've heard recently, just stories have just come out. A study was done undercover in, I think, New York City of a number of merchants, and it found that women were being charged sometimes as much as twice as much as men for the exact same products and services. So again, dear listeners, share your take. Where do you see double standards in any walk of life, in any area of the lives that we live, and what can we do about it, if anything? 1-800-585-9396. Get on board with your take.
Jerry, you bring up, such an interesting kind of intro to this, because I think sometimes double standards happen when we have a vested interest in something, when something affects us personally or in our home life. Because you'll see sometimes that people will make judgments on things. If it doesn't affect them, they'll make a definite judgment. If it has something to do with them, they'll kind of, play both sides, put one foot in one camp, one foot in the other camp. And it's interesting because it goes back to this idea of objective of truths, and it goes back to this idea is, do we understand, what is really right and what is really wrong according to God's law? And this double standard thing, I think, affects us deeply as Catholic Christians, especially in the world we live in today. So we want to hear from you. Phone lines are lighting up. That's a good sign. But you know what? We're waiting for you. So if you're prompted by the Spirit, don't hesitate. This is what's great about this show. It's a conversational show. There's no really right or wrong. Well, we could, unless you go way off base. But, we want to hear from you. 1-800-585-9396.
And just if you hadn't heard about the grand jury indictment of David Daleiden and Sandra Merritt, David Daleiden is the head of, I think it's called the Center for Medical Advancement or something. I've got to get the name on that right. But he's the one, his organization are the ones who went undercover and filmed all those videos with the Planned Parenthood employees. And again, so many people have been just proclaiming, cheering. This is it. This is the end of Planned Parenthood. I've been saying all along, no, not so fast. Mm-hmm. The culture of death doesn't work that way. And to my knowledge, I may be wrong about this, but I don't know of a single Planned Parenthood employee who's gotten into any legal trouble for what they have done. And that is, of course, murdering unborn babies, gathering the body parts, selling them for research, and so forth. So David Daleiden and Sandra Merritt are facing 20 years in prison because they offered to buy the body parts in an attempt to provoke Planned Parenthood employees into saying that they would sell them. So Daleiden and Merritt didn't do anything. As far as I know, they didn't. There was no money that changed hands. They just were provoking Planned Parenthood to try and see if they would say that they would sell them. And so this is the culture that we live in. If this is not an ugly double standard, I have no idea what is.
Well, I was watching the news this morning, Jerry, and he was on the founder of the organization, and he was saying that they're trying to deflect this. They're trying to that's why Planned Parenthood is coming out saying they've been vindicated, because of their tactics they use. And then they were trying to say they somehow obtained a false California driver's license in order to do some of this undercover work, and this was journalism tactics that bordered, illegal, the illegal side of it. And here's the thing about it, though, is I still go back to this. What came out of it, we clearly know that something truly evil was happening behind those walls of Planned Parenthood, whether it's in conversation or in negotiations or what they were doing for their practices. We know that. So what are we going to do with that information? Are we just going to push that aside because we're going to say, oh, well, the way it was obtained was not the proper way? Who gets to determine the proper way of obtaining something like this? Because it's so horrific. And, their undercover work enabled all of us to see something that has been hidden for so many years. So I believe, I hear there's petitions going around, Jerry, and I hear a lot of people are saying we need to really pressure the Texas courts and saying, hey, you got to stop this. This is not right, because the truth is the truth, and the truth is that bad things were happening in Planned Parenthood, and we've got to stop it as Catholic Christians. So there's a lot that's happening. We want to hear from you. 1-800-585-9396.
All right, break time here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We've got your calls coming in. They are being screened by the one, the only Matt Gabensky, and Rich Jesse is our producer. And, of course, Jeff Burson handles our social media. We've got some social media takes to share with you. What is your thought, your take on double standards? Have you been the victim, maybe, of a double standard? Or where do you see them happening in any sector of life? 800-585-9396.
At St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York City, Pope Francis said, "We have to ask ourselves, are we even capable of counting our blessings? If we don't take time to count our blessings, we forget that they're there. Sadly, we tend to do this with the greatest blessings in life. Sure, we thank the person behind the counter who just handed us our change, but when's the last time you told someone that you treasure the gift of his friendship? As silly as it sounds, have you thanked your kids for letting you be their dad? Do you thank your spouse for the gift of her life? Married people can often feel lonely because they get so used to each other that they almost forget that they're not alone. Friends, family, a good meal, a pretty sunset. These are the things that make us super lotto winners. Be sure to cash in. Take a few minutes every day to stop, notice your blessings, and thank God for them. That's where gratitude begins, and joy is never far behind. This is Chris Stefanik from RealLifeCatholic.com on EWTN Radio.
Hello, this is Father John Paul Mary.
This is Debbie Georgiani, co-host of Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
My friends, this is Bishop Kevin Vann of the Diocese of Orange. I want to thank you very much for listening to the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
Welcome, friends, to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We're so glad you joined us. It's called Double Standards. That's what we're talking about today. Different sets of principles for different circumstances, and it can be quite unfair to the point where it's very hard to even combat double standards. I mean, it's very difficult, and so we want to hear from you. This is an exciting topic, and I am so... Are we going to get ready to go to the phones, Jerry? Because
Absolutely.
Okay, because they're filling up so fast, I have to refresh my screen. I'm excited. This is good. Okay, we are going right to Juan in Denver, Colorado, listening on Denver Catholic Radio. Hi, Juan. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi, how are you?
Doing
Good,
well.
Juan. How are you?
So, my question is, and as I was saying earlier, as a Hispanic, we border all the time at double standards that also are very close to discrimination. And these are issues that we deal with on a daily basis, 2 or 3 times a day, and it's not a surprise. So, it's a double standard as you see it. Can it border into discrimination? And I work in the medical field, not giving too much information. And I see these double standards when it applies to given medication, given service, giving attention to Hispanics that are not being seen, that are not seen with other people. And when it comes down to talking about issues of like abortion or contraception, the Hispanic population almost seems to be pushed into doing something like that because of whatever reason. That is not being done with other races, for example.
Mm-hmm. Well, Juan, I'll share a couple of thoughts here, and Debbie probably will as well. But yeah, I would define a double standard as a form of discrimination. I mean, it is, whether it's based on sex, males versus females, whether it's based on race, skin color or ability or age. I mean, we see all kinds of examples of this in our lives all the time. And you brought up the example of how a lot of times the Hispanic communities and the Hispanic population is kind of sort of corralled into abortions and so forth. It's not hidden news at all that, for example, abortion clinics, Planned Parenthood clinics, almost always open up, for example, in black neighborhoods or in lower income minority neighborhoods and so forth. These things are never talked about or never even investigated, but it's definitely targeting as far as I'm concerned. Debbie, I don't know if you have any further insights.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree completely. And Juan, I just wanted to share too that one of the ways that I have learned over the years in some of my training about combating double standards or discrimination or anything of that nature is to state the facts, is to clearly expose the facts. And when you expose the facts, you diffuse evil, especially when it's born out of an evil. When a double standard is derived from a evil, and you expose it, well, you expose the evil. And so what you do then is you diminish the power of that evil. You diffuse that evil. You deflect it. And that's important. The problem that we have, in my opinion, this is my opinion now, I'm not representing the church, is that too many of us don't speak up in a kind, compassionate way. We don't speak up and expose the facts. We kind of cower away and we go away. We don't want to offend. We don't want to ruffle feathers, But if you can do it in a gentle, kind, compassionate way and speak the facts, it does help to move mountains. I don't know if that speaks to you, Juan, or if that even resonates with you, but I'd love to hear your final comments.
I would agree that speaking out, and I have been in situations where either the patient has spoken up or I have spoken in the name of the patient for that particular reason. And trust me, I get shut down very quickly with, aren't you afraid of your job? Or the person being tended to, aren't you afraid of me kicking you out of here because you're not following directions, et cetera, et cetera. So, yes, once you diffuse the evil, then, bring down the fear. Then fear comes on top of that, and it's almost a reprisal, a constant reprisal. And like I said, this is a matter of every day, all the time, constantly happening, and I've witnessed to that many times within the Hispanic community.
Right. Well, I'll tell you, it's not easy to be a Catholic Christian in this world. It's not easy at all. I mean, you have to be strong, and you have to constantly, be able to push away the fears, because we know fear is not of God. We know that. But I would also suggest, like you're doing, is when you do take that leap of faith and you do speak in truth, you have the power of God behind you. If if in fact it's a discernible truth, that to be of God, then you have God's power behind you. And here's the thing about that is you can speak in the smallest of a whisper, and it'll be powerful. So it doesn't have to be the loudest in the room, and it doesn't have to be the one who's constantly repeating themselves. It can just be a simple statement. But you have to rest assured that God's power is behind it, especially if it's a truth of God. So, I mean, God bless you, Juan. It sounds like you do great work in the medical field, and keep up talking about it and speaking about it. The more we educate, there's more power in that. So thank you, Juan, so very, very much for your comments today.
Yeah, Juan, thanks so much for calling and listening on Denver Catholic Radio. Our number is 1-800-585-9396. It's Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. And speaking of two, today we're talking about double standards in life. They're all over the place. Where do you see it? Maybe like Juan, you see it very directly, just very personally, and you feel passionate about it. How can we maybe affect change in the area where we see, different standards being applied for one group versus another group? Have you been a victim of it? Maybe you've been on the end of applying a double standard before, and you've looked back and you thought, that wasn't the right thing to do, and maybe you just want to share how you've sort of reconciled that in your life. 1-800-585-9396. All right, up next is Kathleen in beautiful San Buenaventura, California, listening on EWTN.com. Hi, Kathleen. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi, how are you? I have a cold today, so I sound kind of funny. But I wanted to say shame on Texas, and this must be the dregs of Texas that are doing this. And I challenge the good people of Texas to stand up and pin Planned Parenthood to the wall for the atrocities they commit against these little babies, tearing them apart. And I challenge them to go after them and hold them accountable. I'm a Texan, and I know they can do it.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that this is happening and that it would have happened anywhere. in this nation of ours. But you're right, Kathleen. You think about Texas, and is it Governor Rick Perry? I think he's the governor there, and he's been really going after Planned Parenthood and saying that he's going to be firm in his resolve to see that Planned Parenthood is defunded and so forth. And of course, that doesn't go far enough because crimes were committed and so forth. But it is a little bit surprising, Debbie. That Texas maybe, unfortunately, the place where this injustice is perpetrated. But, I think Kathleen's got some good points.
I do too. And Kathleen, if I'm not mistaken, when I saw in the news report this morning, I had to kind of turn off the TV pretty quick and get into the studio. So I couldn't, I'm hoping I grabbed it all. But it talked about the Attorney General's office in Texas, if I'm not mistaken, that they are going to also investigate the Planned Parenthood atrocities that you're talking about. Simultaneously with this other situation that's happening with the heads of the organization that did the undercover work. And so it's kind of interesting because to me it sounds almost it's a conflict in some sorts. And I do think, though, that it's wise for us as Catholic Christians. I don't think it's time for us to sit quiet on this, because when you sit quiet, it's almost like you're saying, you almost say, okay, I get it. I give in to this. You're right. I'll back away. That's not a good place to be. We know where we stand. We know the truth. We have God on our side. And I think it's important to constantly stay consistent with our message that we respect life from the womb to the tomb, and that's it. We're not going to compromise. So I agree with you, Kathleen, and I pray that happens with the good people of Texas, because it's a great state, and they should definitely speak up.
What else, Kathleen? Anything on that?
Well, yes, I know they're going to come back and do something against them, because this is just not right what's happening. And I don't have TV myself, so I don't know all the particulars, but I just heard one thing, and that was that he was indicted. And I just know this is the lowlife that's doing this, because who can support Planned Parenthood and what they're doing? There is no way that anyone can justify this. Mm-hmm. And now that we know what's going on behind their walls, we need to go after them and stop this.
Yes. Well, Kathleen, you are a voice of passion and truth and reason. And on behalf of Debbie, I just want to thank you for calling Take Two with Jerry and Debbie today. And please know the Take Two family is with you on this intention. And together, Kathleen, will pray for a just outcome in that. So thank you so much for calling. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we've got a break coming up, and then many more calls. Gay and Ramon, and lines are, we have a phone line open. As we talk about double standards, how they are applied in various sectors of life, 1-800-585-9396. And I just want to share something that's on my heart, Debbie, for just a minute, and maybe you can, you might have some thoughts on it too. And when this whole, when these videos started coming out about Planned Parenthood, obviously, who wouldn't be shocked and saddened and scandalized that this kind of thing was going on? And, many of the organizations that I follow on social media and people that I talk to, a lot of them were just giddy. It's like, this is going to be what's the stake driven into Dracula's heart. This is the stake. This is going to be their undoing. They're going to be finished. And I thought to myself, I'm sorry, that's a naive position to think of an organization that has been funded with billions of taxpayer dollars for a very long time and is so deeply entrenched in our culture and such a key element of the culture of death. And, of course, Satan is behind the darkness in the world. Mm-hmm. And so, to date, like I said, I don't see that Planned Parenthood has incurred a single scratch that I'm aware of. And yet now, good people who tried to expose the atrocities may be going to prison. So I just really want to encourage people. We need to get on our knees. This is where this battle is going to be won. Mm-hmm. Yes, we have to be vocal. We have to be outspoken. We have to sign petitions. We have to try to change our governmental leadership and so forth. But as St. Paul says, Debbie, this is against principalities and powers. Mm-hmm. And these organizations are, the culture of death doesn't work that way. Mm-hmm. So I'm sorry if that was preachy.
Not at all.
It's just been on my heart. We've got to get on our knees That's the only way that we are going to get the upper hand and see the defeat of darkness in our country.
Amen to that. We'll be right back. Stay with us on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
If you're currently an EWTN media missionary or just interested in becoming one, we've got some great news. EWTN Media Missionaries has a new and improved website. EWTNmissionaries.com, designed with you in mind. Our new site is loaded with great features and it's easy to navigate. There are so many different ways that you can help EWTN. Join us in sharing the eternal word with the world. Visit EWTNmissionaries.com today.
From the archives, this is the wisdom of Mother Angelica.
Sin divorces us from God. Until we pay, we have to pay. Some people pay for everlasting punishment because they will not ask forgiveness. And some people pay in purgatory because they never use this life to cleanse their souls. You know, I look upon every difficulty. I try. I don't think I always make it. But I try to make every difficulty an opportunity. Some difficulties make you humble. Some make you forgive, which makes it pleasing to God. Our dear Lord himself said on the cross, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they do. Have you ever said that to your neighbor when you forgave them?
For more about Mother Angelica, visit EWTNRC.com.
With me is Dr. Ray Garendi, proud 9-time winner of the Catholic Media's Humility Award, who suffered a humiliating defeat this year at the hands of Al Cresta. Dr. Ray, do you have a strategy to reassert your humility?
I'm gathering listener support through this petition.
There are only 4 names here.
I've only been collecting for a month.
And the signatures are all yours.
I'm priming the pump.
Well, if you'd like to add your name to Dr. Ray's petition, tune in to The Doctor Is In Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
I think I can get Cresta's wife to sign next.
We're so glad you're with us on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. I listened to Dr. Ray Garendi's spots, Jerry, and I just laugh my head off. I'm telling you, he is hysterical. What a sense of humor. But that's good. We need a sense of humor in this chaotic world. So it's a good thing. Okay, so we're talking about double standards today, and Jerry and I feel very passionate about this subject, and we can tell by the phone lines you do as well. So we're going to move right along to Salt Lake City, Utah, listening on iHeartRadio app. Ramon, welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Hi, my double standard, it doesn't have to do with Planned Parenthood and all this abortion talk. Actually, it's about my situation that me and my wife are having, and I was wondering, am I applied to a double standard? Because she believes that the way I discipline the children is not the correct way or the proper way, because she believes that it's really negative the way that I discipline the children. I want to know your take on that.
Well,
you go first, Jerry.
Well, Ramon, I was just going to say, obviously, we're not, we don't live inside the walls of your home and your family. Right. So, there's really no way that we could comment in any specific or concrete kind of way. If you want to share more specifics, you can, but maybe it's a private matter. But the one thing, Debbie, that I would simply encourage Ramon and his wife to do is to be on the same page. We did that show not long ago, Team Ramon. We did a show called Team, T-E-A-M, Team Parenting. And it's so important that parents be united. And if there's a different standard being applied in certain circumstances, then the parents you got to regroup, get behind closed doors in your bedroom or somewhere, go out for dinner some night and say, honey, you know what? I'm doing it this way. You're doing it this way. Let's try and meld these together or find the right way to discipline the kids. But most important, Debbie, is just simply the kids have to see that the parents are one in their discipline and raising of them.
Right, right. And Ramon, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for calling in and sharing. It's obvious that it affects you, that you and your wife are not on the same page with this, because that's why you're calling in. And I really want to just, say thank you for doing that. That shows your openness, and it shows your heart, and you wanting to, have the best, cohesive and healthy family that you can possibly have. I used to get this question a lot in religious education, Ramon, and I would always suggest that the parents go for some kind of class or professional help on getting on the same page, because there's reasons why, Ramon, you choose to discipline one way. It may come from your childhood. It may come from your own views of life, and your wife has different views. And there is a way to make it to where it's a compromise, and it's a productive sense of discipline for the children that benefits them in a positive way. So I would recommend, this is my personal opinion, to please go and seek out in your area. And I know in Salt Lake City there's lots of resources. You've got great parishes that have doing some great community work. If you can seek out in one of your parishes a group or a class or even a counselor that can help you get on the same page. I will tell you this, if you and your wife are on the same page, it'll make raising your children so much more enjoyable. And it'll bring you two closer as husband and wife. I don't know if that at all helps, but I hope it does, because I know it to be true. I know it's worked for many, many years in religious education. So Ramon, are you open to that?
I am. Actually, I've heard you guys talk about this group of married couples. It has a French word. I can't remember the name of it. But I've been
Retrouvailles. Yeah, Retrouvailles.
Yes,
right.
I've been looking for that program here in Salt Lake, but I can't seem to find it.
Okay, well, let me give you, because I used to represent Salt Lake City for the Catholic radio station that I worked for many years. And if you go to your diocesan website, your Salt Lake City website, there are Marriage Encounter and Retrouvailles for you can call your diocese. Call your diocese and say you're looking for Marriage Encounter or Retrouvailles. Let me give you just a quick update. Marriage Encounter is to really enhance your marriage, and Retrouvailles is when your marriage really is in a critical state and needs some definite quick help. So you determine what works for you in your marriage, but I would call your Diocese of Salt Lake City and say, I would like to look into Marriage Encounter or Retrouvailles. Can you help me? I can almost guarantee you they will help you. If they don't, email me at take two at EWTN.com, and I'll make sure you get to one of those groups. Okay, Ramon?
Thank you.
Thank you. God bless you. Sounds like a great dad who wants, that's what I love. I love dads who are engaged and want to make their family the best they can possibly make it.
Yeah, and we'll pray for that, Ramon. Thank you so much, as Debbie said, for calling and sharing that. 1-800-585-9396. We've got Glenn in Milwaukee, Wisconsin next. Glenn, thanks for calling Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. You're on the air.
Hello?
Hey, hello, Glenn. You are on.
Oh, hey, great. How are you today?
Doing pretty well. Thanks for calling.
I'm just flipping around. I don't normally listen to you guys, just as full disclosure here. And I was listening to the discussion about what's going on down in Texas with Planned Parenthood and the recent indictment. And, I understand that there's a moral issue about abortion with Planned Parenthood. And there was this perception that something illegal was going on with the sale of fetuses. But that's been proven to be false. However, what's shown now is that what these people that were indicted did, allegedly now, was illegal. So, my question, I guess, is does the end justify the means? Is it okay to do illegal things in order to get rid of something that you feel morally needs to be removed? And then in addition to that, Planned Parenthood does a whole lot more than abortion. That's only a small percentage of what they do. So are we getting rid of the baby with the bathwater with them as well if we try to close them down totally? So that's why, like you said, double standards. It seems like, let's do the life-affirming part and not, let's make sure that we at least affirm that aspect of it. That's just my 2 cents.
Sure, Glenn. Well, we appreciate the call and your very thoughtful, questions on this. I would comment on a couple of things. One, I have not heard that, what you said, that it was proven to be false, that they were actually engaged in the trafficking of human fetal body parts. In fact, I believe there was one of their members, was it Cecilia Richards?
Cecile
I think
Richards.
is her name.
Cecile
Richards, I believe, admitted to Congress that it was true. So that's one thing that I have not heard that it was proven to be false. But nevertheless, the gathering of that information, I don't know the legality of taking a video camera and videotaping somebody in circumstances like that. Regarding,
let me respond to that real quick. There are a couple of things. First of all, she admitted to using the fetal tissue for research, not for profit. Okay, so that's right. They're not selling it for profit, which was the allegation. Second, what these people did is they took the interview and they snip, and cut it in such a way that it appeared that there was criminal activities going on. But when you view the entire videotape, you see that that wasn't true. I mean, you can take videotape of people, you can take recordings of people and cut them up and make them sound almost anything. But what they also did is they presented themselves as something that they weren't in order to get in there. And they presented themselves as governmental officials, which is what the indictment is about, that they committed fraud in order to do this. So that was my point, is that,
yeah. You're saying it's like
somebody
right.
that they're entirely right. You look in and you find out, okay, so what's going on here? So
right. You're saying it's kind of like, Glenn, like a reverse double standard. I mean, I see what you're saying, but the thing about, I just wanted to comment real quickly, though, is that from what my understanding is from looking into this for many, many weeks and months, actually, and hearing all sides of it, I mean, clearly something of an evil nature was taking place, in the sense that it's totally contrary to our beliefs as Catholic Christians. And so what do we do with that? Now, I understand what you're saying, possibly that the way they did the undercover work wasn't the most, whatever way, but I want to challenge you on this. This is what I would like to challenge you. How could they have possibly gone in an undercover fashion and expose themselves right at the get-go? Obviously, no one's going to divulge the deep, dark, dirty secrets. I mean, so there was some, undercover investigative journalism happening, to be able to solicit that information that has been hidden for so many years. And so it's really a very complicated situation, Glenn. And I just real quickly, I just want to say, Glenn, thank you for kind of tripping onto our show. I know you said at the beginning you don't listen to our show. I hope you listen to it all the time now, because we would love for you to listen. You've got great takes on things, and we'd love to discuss things. So please consider, listening to us. But I'd love to go back to you real quickly and just hear your comments on that.
Well, thank you for that. And, like I say, I listen to various things, all sides of the spectrum, whenever I can. But my point here was, yes, I understand that you need to go in, I forget what the word is, but, undercover and everything like that. And maybe you need to misrepresent yourself. But then when you take what you found and it doesn't support the initial belief that you had going in, don't distort it in order to try to make your point. We should all learn from these things. We can go in and we can say, hey, I looked at this and this is what I found. Not, I looked at this, I found something different, so I'm going to distort it in order to back up my initial allegation here. And that's all I'm thinking, because to me, that's the double standard.
Sure, and Glenn, the only comment I can make on that is I've heard what you're saying, alleged against those who did the videos by, of course, the Planned Parenthood side and so forth. I'm not saying you're aligned with them or have the same philosophy or whatever, but they claim that they did not do that. So again, this is kind of like a he said, she said, but the point is, I think there was enough very, very damning, footage, even in just small snippets. I mean, some of the comments that were made were just absolutely very callous, and just so matter of fact about, yeah, we do sell the baby parts and here's how much we get for them. And one lady even said she wanted to buy a fancy luxury car with the money. Anyway, the point being, and just real quickly, Glenn, to your thought about, the good that Planned Parenthood does, I suppose it can be admitted that they do, but the fact that they are, in my understanding, the world's largest provider of abortions, I think that fact in and of itself should give anyone pause before they use any Planned Parenthood services, because there are any of the services Planned Parenthood offers, I'm certain must be readily available in other areas. Catholics set up crisis pregnancy clinics and these sorts of things all over the place. So anyway, Glenn, I echo what Debbie said. Thanks for coming onto our show today, and I hope that you do come back and listen every now and then, because we love having new listeners, and we really appreciate you calling in from Milwaukee this morning. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. We appreciate it. Hope to hear from you again. Thank you so very, very much. And we're going to go right to Gay in Kentucky, who's been patiently waiting. I think you get the Patience Award today, Gay. So welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. What's your take on this?
Thank you. My take is, if you go back, and I don't think you're all as old as I am, go back to when Nixon beat McGovern, and they investigated Watergate. They didn't investigate McGovern. You go back to Bill Clinton and his affairs, we should put him out of office. And we should have taken Obama and Hillary to task over the men in Benghazi, because there are families who are still hurting, and she lied. And she's still lying.
Well, Gay, those are great points. I think at least many in our audience will, of the examples you gave, will certainly remember the Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky affair, and just the bald-faced lies by President Clinton at the time. And it's just, Debbie, it's just like the standards that are applied. You can really tell the fruit of them by what sticks to a person. Okay, Bill Clinton was, if I remember, he was impeached. Okay, what did that mean? Nothing. Did he ever suffer any consequences for that? No. I guess Monica Lewinsky was kind of sent out to pasture, and so these are the kinds of things that our topic today really, Debbie, is all about.
Yeah. I think it depends on who it is that they're going to attach the sin to or the crime to. I guess it depends on who that person is and their popularity or what their influence is in life. And that is clearly a double standard. And we see that in politics all the time. So, Gay, I think you're right on with that. And I do believe that what can we do about it? Because so many times people say, what can we do about it? Well, we need to speak up. But we can do it in a kind, compassionate, empathetic way in this wonderful year of mercy like Pope Francis has issued for us. We can do it because we know we have the power of God behind us. We know that the truth is behind us. So, Gay, thank you so very, very much. God bless you for calling in and making the time today to impart your wisdom to us. Thanks, Gay. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
Yeah, please do. And our number, 1-800-585-9396. If you want to join the conversation about double standards on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. And we thank Meg in Virginia for calling. You are up next. We appreciate your call. Thanks for listening to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. What's your take on this?
Hi, Meg.
Oh, hi. Sorry, I couldn't tell. You kind of bugged out for a second. Thank you for taking my call. Thank you for your show. I've been listening for several months now.
Oh, thanks.
And have a lot of great discussion. I wanted to originally call about the double standard, I guess, of pro-lifers, it being against the law for pro-lifers to, actually do some real protest at the, in every way, but especially at abortion clinics, and how there used to be civil disobedience, peaceful, prayerful civil disobedience blocking women from going to get the abortions. And I think we need to look at doing that again, even though the stakes are higher for that. And in the same regard with the, that's against the law. And what can we do to really make ourselves heard? I mean, of course, things like the March for Life and all these things are urgently necessary, but I don't think until Biden and his co-workers' indictment, they start trying to put us in jail, and everybody starts protesting this in large numbers in serious ways, that this is really going to be, that Planned Parenthood is really going to be taken down, and they're going to stop trying to indict people for things they didn't do. But in addition to that, after hearing Glenn's call, I have to say that, I appreciate people from different perspectives calling in, because you really get an idea what the news media accomplishes with their lives, because people really are misinformed. But it is. I have heard Teresa Tanya say, and I know several other news shows on EWTN that they, although Planned Parenthood alleged and tried to accuse them of editing the videos, that the videos, it was proven they were not edited by someone. A judge ordered that they be reviewed by someone, and an independent source said they were not edited at all. So what they found was what they found. They were raw footage, and that was proven. And then on top of that, I was pretty sure I heard, again, on Catholic radio that Cecile Richards not only admitted, because I was going through cancer therapy when Parenthood was having these phone conferences trying to tell people how they had mammograms and other cancer
screening
treatment and screening. And my daughter and I got on the call to say, no, they do not. They do not offer those services. And I know they don't because I've looked for the services in the area and they don't offer them. And they cut us off of the call and they wouldn't let us speak anymore. So she was questioned at Congress about whether they had mammograms or other screening, and she said, no, they do not. So they do not do any good. There is no good services that they offer, other than maybe a free pregnancy test, but we know that then they try to coerce the woman into having an abortion after that. So there's a strings attached. So,
well, Meg, let me, just for the sake of time, I want to share a couple of insights that as you're talking, making some very good points, and Debbie may as well, and phone lines still remain full, so we're going to try to get to as many people as possible. I just want to zero in on the media element of what Meg was talking about. We are in an absolute disadvantage position. We are fighting a total losing battle when it comes to the media. Proof. We just had the March for Life. I was looking, I don't know, I haven't been able to find how many people were there this year. Maybe fewer than before, perhaps a few less because of the weather and all of that. But I looked, Wikipedia article showed for the last several years the attendance going up 400,000, 500,000. Last year, 2015, on Wikipedia, which is, usually a figure pretty reliable, the figure, Debbie, was 800,000 plus were at the March for Life. So you have to figure with a trajectory of attendance and marchers going up, even with a little bit of a drop-off perhaps, and I don't know this to be true because of the weather this year or other factors, there were still hundreds and hundreds of thousands. And yet, media sources, all of the mainstream media, the very best they could say was thousands marched. And I saw these things too. They're always the opponents of abortion rights. Opponents of abortion, it's always right. We're the opponents. We're the negative. And then I saw one article online that said thousands march in quote March for Life. It had it in quotes. Okay, so I mean, folks, if you believe what you see on your TV and what you're reading in your newspaper, unless it's from a dependable Catholic source or some other source to be reliable, you're being duped, you're being lied to, and you are to be pitied because it's a total losing battle when it gets to, what the media is feeding us and want us to believe.
Right. You're right on. And I just want to say real quickly, Meg, you're so perfectly right on as well when you were talking about how everybody believed that Planned Parenthood gave health care services to women, and then when they found out the truth, the facts, that there was no mammograms, there was no health care services, everybody goes, oh, well, they're still good for women. Well, you're right on, Meg. They're not. Women can go to crisis pregnancy centers, so many centers out there that are Christian-based that really give a beautiful, wholesome approach to making wise, good, wholesome decisions. And so, Meg, you're right on about it. And we do have the truth. We don't really have to be civilly disobedient, though. We can just stand in the truth, and we just have to keep saying it over and over again. Eventually, it should be able to creep into people's lives and they can understand it. We're going to move right along to Deacon Tony real quick. I think we have just like a minute, but we have a comment that Deacon Tony wants to share from Connecticut. And the rest of you, Therese and Victoria and Pat, please keep the conversation going on Facebook. We want to continue this conversation. But real quickly, Deacon Tony, share with us. Give us your wisdom.
Oh, I don't know about that. Hello. Hi, Debbie. Hi, Jerry.
Hi.
Hey,
hi.
This is quite it's quite upsetting, and I was thinking related to the theme of the show about double standards. I had a package store a few years ago that I sold, and it's interesting because the state would send in, they would do stings. They would do stings for alcohol and stings for cigarettes to protect smokers and protect underage people, making sure that we didn't serve underage people alcohol and we didn't serve underage smokers. But so it's okay for someone to protect the government to do that, to protect the smokers and to protect the people, underage drinkers, but it's not okay to protect the unborn. So that just really struck me as a real example of an upsetting double standard that we're just not really getting.
Yeah, Tony, you make a great point. And I was going to make a point, similar to that earlier in the show, and it kind of slipped my aging, lack of short-term memory mind. But you've re-jogged my memory. I think of shows like 60 Minutes. I don't watch it anymore. I can hardly stand to watch anything that's on TV for that matter. But 60 Minutes, over the years, Debbie, you see all of these undercover investigations, people posing to be somebody they're not. They don't tell the other people that they're recording them, that they're filming them, and then they get together with the person and sit down and say, "Hey, I want to show you some video clips of some things you said or did, and I want your comments on that." And put them on the hot seat, right there. So I don't know, Deb, you've got some thoughts, I'm sure, before we get ready to close.
Yeah, no, I just love Deacon. I'm so glad we got to Deacon Tony. Thank you so much. Thank you for your vocation. Thanks for calling in and imparting your wisdom to us. Keep praying for us. And I just wanted to share, I know we're getting ready to close the show, but I wanted just to share this because we're getting some comments about, opposing views of callers that called in earlier and how we pray for them or treat them. Let me just share one thing. This conversation that we have has to be comfortable and accepting of people's opposing views. That's the only way people are going to learn. It's the only way people are going to feel comfortable to shift their thoughts on things. And so I think it's so important we stick with facts, we stick with the truth that God has given to us through scripture and tradition, and we take confidence in that. And we don't look back. And then people will come along because the truth does get revealed to people's hearts at the right time and the right place. And we can pray for that. That's my takeaway, Jerry. What's yours?
Well, instead of a takeaway, I want to ensure Meg, who called, she mentioned, I believe, that she had been dealing with some cancer of some sort, I believe. So, Meg, I just want to ensure you of our prayers and the prayers of the entire Take Two with Jerry and Debbie family. And coming up tomorrow, Debbie, what is our topic
Promiscuity
tomorrow?
to purity.
Ooh, I like that. Have you, at one time in your life, maybe when you were young, a teen, a young adult, kind of found yourself a little promiscuous, but you've changed and you've had a conversion? Now you've embraced a life of purity. Maybe you're a parent trying to impart the right things to your kids. So that's our topic tomorrow. We hope that you will join us. Until then, Debbie and I hope that you have a beautiful and blessed day.